great that you're here and that you made it. I'm really happy to continue with the way of the servant. And today the parenthesis in eternity came a bit stronger in my visor. I started to read some of the parentheses, and you see, great sharings of Joel in that I love to share with you. So today we will read a part from the book, The Way of the Servant. That's one thing. We will use the contemplations that are given by Joel Goldsmith. Like I said, these from the book The Parenthesis in Eternity. And then there are two presentations that I love to share with you too. And so, yeah, great program. So this is a program that's really like completely, you could say, focused on relaxation, inspiration, taking time to really deeply let yourself be touched by what is shared, or to ponder it for a moment, to really make this your, say, experience for yourself. So it really asks some quiet and some rest, some like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I'm allowing that. I'm being with these things that are being shared. I'm being with in fact, the incredible inspiration that's being shared. And when you allow yourself to do that, this is going to be a blast. It's going to be great. So this is how I prepared it, and it's really interesting because it's, to me, different than another type of meeting that we have, since there's so much sharing. And of course that happens to other meetings too that we have, but here it's like, yeah, the most common thing. It's what happens continuously. So when we read together, for instance, from the book The Way of the Servant, that's also a poem that we recite to one another. So we take time to let these words come to meaning, so to speak, while you read them for yourself. And more like this. So I always try to be very, very much present in what I'm sharing. When I read, I allow that to come through me, in me, start to resonate with me, and say, give it away, give it, like, yeah, this is my gift to the world, to my world. This is my gift to you. And these are just seem to be like, yeah, moments of sharing. But actually it is different. It is like sharing the most intimate love that you feel for God, or the love that you feel inside yourself. So that is what is being shared. And that's always good to remember that. You can feel that. You can communicate with that. So even if you didn't hear one word that I was sharing, or when we are reading, for instance, if you did not even let one word resonate with you, but purely tap into the communication, you open up to that, like then it's sufficient. It's complete and whole. It's perfect. And so that's another way of being present, you could say. And of course we do this too. It's like when you don't speak English very well, for instance, but are used to French or any other language, you can still say receive this in a certain sense. And this way of receiving is actually a really great way to be present and to receive this in the first place. Of course, the nuances of text and words are, say, contributing, but in fact the communication is still whole. So Yeah, it doesn't need to be a disturbance, or it doesn't need to be. There doesn't need to be something lacking in that, and that's a real experience for yourself too. Um, and the funny part is actually that you start. At least if I look back at it, this is a bit how I learned to listen and really like um, start to understand English by first tapping into the energy, and more it started to make sense. Like these words come later, but they will come to you. They will they will start to grow in you because every word has its own vibration, you could say, or its own yeah, meaning. That's another word you could use. Um, so yeah, what I'm saying is this, in fact. So however you are going to be present, whether you understand what's being shared or not, it really doesn't matter. So I'm happy that you're here and that you're a whole part of this, and that you say are willing to undergo this. You could say, so, and you expose yourself to this. That's wonderful. So now I love to start with um, the real, yeah, this is a really like a prayer that Joel gives in the book, a parenthesis in eternity. So it is meant to be, in fact, an say he puts into words what the Christ is seeing and what the servant is seeing, you could say. So I'm going to share that with you. Yeah, I called it the exposure, like the third exposure. Um, so number one is here. See, this is what Joel shares with us. And I want to use this like, oops, sorry. I want to use this um, as a meditation for just a moment. So I will repeat these words. Say one more time. We have a bit of quiet in between. And then I repeat this again. And then there will be quiet for some time. Within my own being, I have the kingdom of God. It is not outside or in the heavens. The kingdom of God is within me. In this moment of quietness, I hear God say, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. I have meat the world knows not of. I am the meat, and the wine, and the bread. I am the resurrection. I am life eternal. All of this is within me. All of this is embodied in my consciousness. All of this constitutes the withinness of my own being. I myself embody the kingdom of God and all that is therein. Within me, there's a presence that says, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. I will be with you to the end of the world. All right. So thank you. That's a great start. Um, it's nice to become still and quiet and to come into a listening mode or attitude. See what Joel shares here. That doesn't necessarily have to be your direct experience. So that's the interesting thing always with reading, but still it can give you something, and that is perfect. You know, that's perfect. So is it with the So the next part that we're going to do is like the reading of the book 4, at least part of it, book 4 of the Way of the Servant. And I like to do that together, if that is possible for you, and if it's not, that's fine too, of course. But I like you to join me in that, because then we have, say, a beautiful, say, support for the whole idea of servant in a new way of seeing that. That's what I love about that book. So I'm going to share that with you. Let me see. So this is Teachings of Christ Mind from the christmind.info website. And this is the book, The Way of Mastery, but then book 4 of the Way of the Servant. And so I'll start with this. So make it a little bigger. I hope you can see this right. If you cannot see it, let me know. So I'm going to, read the first 2 paragraphs and then just pick a paragraph or so to read if you join me. So this is book 4. Self-mastery and servantship are one. So I'll read it slowly. You can hear that. That's also important so that we have time to actually know what's being said here. Self-mastery and servantship are one, for where one is, the other is found. And this is self-mastery with a capital S. And where the other is, the one is also known. So self-mastery and servantship are one. For where one is, the other is found. And where the other is, the one is also known. So yeah, you just continue if you feel like it.
Mastery is that state in which not one thing of the world compels you in any direction, yet not one thing of the world is judged. This must naturally follow for the mind to which peace is returned.
Yeah, to lack mastery.
You can, if you want, you can repeat it. If you think like I need to read this one more time, you just do that.
Yes, I would like to read it one more time. It's so beautiful.
Okay, yeah.
Mastery is that state in which not one thing of the world compels you in any direction, yet not one thing of the world is judged. This must naturally follow for the mind to which peace is returned.
Thank you.
To lack mastery in any aspect of life is to lack it in all.
Mastery is the foundation from which the servant enacts the movement of love, proceeding from the Father through the Son. Serving the one goal of atonement by demonstrating its completion in you. Mastery is the foundation from which the servant enacts the movement of love proceeding from the Father through the Son, serving the one goal of atonement by demonstrating its completion in you.
It is given as a great sign into you. Mastery is completed when not one but learning of word remains, not one love. You have misquoted for yourself is justified of you. It is given as a class sign into your mastery is completed when not one but learning of the word remains, not one love. You have misquoted for yourself is justified of you.
Look well then at the whole of your life, and behold with innocent honesty the loves you would keep for yourself. For what can you carry forth from death to life? Even the body will be outshined. Look well then at the whole of your life, and behold with innocent honesty the loves you would keep for yourself. For what can you carry forth from death to life? Even body will be outshined.
And if you love the Father above the world, what would you leave untransformed by the radiance of your union? And if you love the Father above the world, what would you leave untransformed by the radiance of your union?
You can give only what you possess, and what you possess exists for you only because you value it. You can give only what you possess, and what you possess exists for you only because you value it.
What treasure will you lay at your brother's feet? For where your treasure is, there shall your heart be also. And your heart is all that can be given. What treasure will you lay at your brother's feet? For where your treasure is, there shall your heart be also. And your heart is all that can be given.
I have said before that the world is but a symbol. Choose wisely what your word will symbol for you, for it is the symbol you chose, which your sister will see, that is you heard, revealed, and you have spoken your judgment of the Father. I have said before that the world is but a symbol. Choose which what your word will symbolize for you, for it is a symbol your shows which your sister will see. Whose is your heart previously, and you have spoken your judgment of the Father.
She who knows me walks with me, and she who walks with me makes straight her path, and all things are given to the praise of what God is, love.
Love embraces all things, heals all things, transforms all things, celebrates all things, and above all, mirrors what God is in all things. Love embraces all things, heals all things, transforms all things, celebrates all things, and above all, mirrors what God is in all things.
Give no thought then for tomorrow, neither for the things you shall eat, nor for the things you shall wear. For the Father knows you have need of these things, and he will not leave you comfortless.
When I once asked you to take no thought, you unwittingly failed to hear me, deciding you can direct the choice of what you would eat and what you would wear, and thus cleverly cherish the loves you would desire to keep. To decide for yourself is precisely to take thought, that is, because you failed to let the Comforter choose for you, right-mindedness was cast aside and the real world abandoned. When I once asked you to take no thought, you unwittingly failed to hear me, deciding you can direct the choice of what you would eat and what you would wear, and thus cleverly cherish the loves you would desire to keep. To decide for yourself is precisely to take thought, that is, because you failed to let the Comforter choose for you, right-mindedness was cast aside and the real world abandoned.
But she who praises God in all things keeps no decision for herself, listening only to the voice for God. And the servant knows the voice speaks only with perfect reason. To cling to but one love you have miscreated is surely to be unreasonable, for you have learned that the symbols of the world can be but the symbols of death. Death is no longer your will, but life. But the one who praises God in all things keeps no decision for itself, listening only to the voice for God. And the servant knows the voice speaks only with perfect reason. To cling to but one love you have miscreated is surely to be unreasonable, for you have learned that the symbols of the world can be but the symbols of death, and death is no longer your will, but life.
I am come again into your that you might have life, and this more abundantly life will them to ask before her choice. Does this value the symbol of this or of life? I am come again into you, that you might have life, and this more abundantly learn well than to ask before each choice. Does this value the symbol of this or of life?
Abiding in innocent honesty, you will realize that the Comforter's guidance is immediate and uncompromising.
Herein will be revealed to you the final meaning of my teaching. Take no thought, for the Father knows you have need of these things.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to stop right here for a moment. And there are different ways we're going to present this, the same idea today, so in different ways. So one of the ways is also seeing that the way of the servant is the way of self-expression, like it comes to you in a certain way, you receive that in a certain way, and extend that into your world. And today I got you could say like an anonymous send-in of one of us. So I will not mention any names. So it's anonymous. So this is also an expression. I will share it with you. Really beautiful, and it is with music. So we'll see how that works out. Thank you. Whoever did this, wonderful. That's great. So thank you so much. It was a real experience to undergo this, to be exposed to this. So the music stopped while we did this, so I continued with the music that came to me. So, and we're all one. And so this is like, there's no mistake in the universe. You know, that's always great to discover. Like there's no mistake. So everything is, it's right here. There's only one thing going on, and you're it. And it's all inclusive, like it's said in the video too. So now we have another expose, you could say. I'll see if she's around. Unmute your microphone and we can hear it.
Thank you. I didn't know I was muted.
Yeah, everyone is muted. I always do that.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I'll just tell everyone that this was written by a Canadian composer who recently passed away, R. Murray Schafer, and he loved to integrate the sounds of nature with music and the voice. He was very open to integrating even city sounds. I went on a walk with him quite a few years ago, and it was in the middle of the city. So you would hear horns honking and people yelling, but he said this is all part of the sound that we live with all the time, and at the same time become aware of the nature sounds, like the birds and the children laughing. So I will just read this little clip that he once said. Listening to the soundscape and viewing the landscape are two very different experiences. You are always at the edge of the landscape, looking. I think that word's cut off. You are always at the edge of the landscape, looking in, but you are always at the center of the soundscape, looking out. Listening to the soundscape and viewing this landscape are two very different experiences. You are always at the edge of the landscape looking in, but you are always at the center of the soundscape looking out. Now I will do nothing but listen, to accrue what I hear into this song, to let sounds contribute toward it. I hear bravures of birds, bustle of growing wheat, gossip of flames. I hear the sound I love, the sound of the human voice. I hear all sounds running together, uncombined, fused or following, sounds of the city and sounds out of the city, sounds of the day and night. I hear the chorus It is a grand opera. Ah, this indeed is music. This suits me. This is from Walt Whitman. And I found it interesting because Joel Goldsmith had a fondness for Walt Whitman. And I heard this in a forest walk that I went last Saturday, some Elora Festival singers. And it was just surprised me in this program.
So this is really interesting. So Joel actually speaks a lot of degree of something, like a degree of a measure of something. Like he does that a lot, and that's always a bit yeah, difficult to hear that. Difficult in the sense of degree of illumination, like either it is the case or it is not, right? So how does that work? And so you discover in the way that you listen that there's a certain matter of, measure, you could say measure or degree of how you hear it. Like the depth of it can change, there's a variety in it. It can suddenly be a very deep experience, and the next moment it appears not that deep of an experience, but a glimpse. And these glimpses that we have are just as important, you could say, than the deep experiences that we have, but it is just a different quality. So the degree thing, that would mean it's an order of depth or something like this. And I don't know exactly how Joel that wants to be expressed, because this is one of the difficulties with that. It's like you have an experience of God, however that is, it is an experience of God. You catch a glimpse of light. So one peak of light is just as illuminating as a beam of light, so I will leave that for now. But I'd like to read this anyway, because it's a beautiful, another beautiful expression of Joel. So here we go. So I made some music for that I love to share too. I used it in another meditation too, but I love it. So the degree of our illumination will determine the degree of our freedom. Freedom from personal sense. Freedom from living on externals. Freedom from outer dependencies. Freedom that enables us to tabernacle and commune with our inner selfhood. Not only blessing us, but eventually making us forget ourselves and using us only as instruments for the blessing of others. So the degree of our illumination will determine the degree of our freedom. Freedom from personal sense and freedom from living on externals. Freedom from outer dependencies. Freedom that enables us to tabernacle and commune with our inner selfhood. not only blessing us, but eventually making us forget ourselves and using us only as instruments for the blessing of others.